Heyo, it's Joe, and as some of you may know, Spider-Man No Way Home recently dropped and has been completely taking over the lives of Marvel fans. However, for this video, we'll be shifting our focus to Zendaya. Whenever Zendaya is in a red carpet or in an award ceremony or something that has to do with anything she was in, I always, and I mean always, have to see what she wears. Her stylist is amazing and completely knows what's on trend every time, and always hits it like right on the nail. Like, it's amazing. Specifically for the No Way Home red carpet, she went all out and did like a full couture dress with Valentino, which is totally on theme with Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure it's custom. It's not part of any of their previous collections, which makes it even more amazing. As you can see, for these 3 red carpet looks, she slowly started incorporating the Spider-Man themes into them, starting off with the homecoming dress, which was pink, then moving on to the Far From Home dress, which was black and red, which is more on the Spider-Man theme. Then for No Way Home, she completely went all out and went like full in on the Spider-Man theme, which I completely love. And before we jump in, I quickly want to show you guys some of my favorite looks by Zendaya, starting off with this green look for the Emmys, and who could forget that white Vivienne Westwood look with the gorgeous locks that ended Juliana Rancic's career. And let's not forget her Met Gala looks. These are simply amazing and she always delivers, always. So if you're wondering, yes, I will be showing my take of this dress today, but I did want to shake it up a bit. If you got that, you're definitely from my generation. And kinda challenge myself a bit, so I decided to give myself 24 hours to sew my interpretation of this dress, and just to kind of see how it turns out. So let's jump in. So to get started, I really wanted to kick it off with a sketch just to kind of give myself an idea of where all the seam lines were going to be and the placement of the spiderwebs as well. There were about 13 different spiderwebs throughout the entire dress that needed to be beaded and, have all that going on. So all I really had to do was kind of match the placement of the spiderwebs onto my own design and just kind of try to remember where everything's going to go. So upon finishing my sketch, it was time to choose materials. For the lining, I'll be using the skin tone mesh that I normally use for my wig caps, and the darker material was a little tougher to choose since I did want it to have some stretch to kind of go with the meshing material that has a lot of it. At the same time, I wanted the material that had the most transparency. That way it kind of resembled the original dress. However, it ended up not really mattering since I kind of wasn't going to go out of my way to buy materials. I really wanted to work with what I had. Now that I have my materials, it is time to drape. Now for the draping, I did want to get everything done right away with the actual fabric I was going to use, just to save time and get through everything as quickly as possible, which leaves you very little room for error, which I was well aware of. However, it is something that does make me a little nervous when I have to work with the fabric right away instead of having, like a sample fabric to kind of work with first. But, it comes with the territory of doing little challenges like this. So once I finished the draping, I went ahead and transferred the measurements to a pattern piece to be able to trace it out correctly on fold. Then I placed that fabric piece onto the lining, and then I traced it out and cut it. I just want to pop in and say hi and kind of introduce myself, I guess, since I've never really shown my face on video, but here it is. Just woke up, so I have crazy hair, but that aside, I just want to give you guys a quick little update on what's going on. Taking a quick coffee break. It's a little past 10:30. Got a lot done, given that the challenge started at 9. Got the draping done, the pattern done, cut the fabric, tried it on Chi, tested the fit, and I'm loving how it looks. So it looks like after I get my coffee, I'm gonna jump straight into sewing. So I'm just excited to keep you guys posted and showing you guys everything. So yeah, see you guys in a bit. So shortly after that clip, I ended up drinking Mexican hot chocolate instead of coffee and ended up napping for an hour and a half. Hence why it's now 12:06 p.m. At this point, all I'm doing is measuring the whole pattern piece, making sure it fits well and it's cohesive. So surprisingly enough, this dress was actually very simple to sew together. All I needed to do was face the 2 pieces of fabric, right sides facing each other, and sew all around the entire piece, and just being really careful with like the straps and all that stuff, just making sure it's even and nicely sewn. So once I finished sewing, I went ahead and flipped it right sides out and give it a good press with my iron, and then proceeded to kind of try it on Chi with like some fake straps that I just kind of clipped on with like different measurements just to try out the different sizes of straps just to see which fit would be best. So after doing so, I went ahead and tried on the dress with the mesh fabric facing out. That way I'd be able to mark where I want the slit to go and be able to kind of do all the markings on there. So to sew the slip, all I really did was turn everything wrong sides out and just sewed 2 straight lines, and at the top I just sewed back and forth just to really reinforce that area. You could even make it like a little V instead of like this rectangular shape I have at the end. Totally up to you, depends on your preference. From there I cut straight into the slit, making sure I don't get into any of the stitchings. Clip it right sides out and make any adjustments I did make, whether it's seam ripping any extra little stitch that went wrong, anything like that. And then once it's flipped the right sides out and everything looks good, just give it everything a great little press. Alright, so it's finally sparkle time, so let's get started. Alright, so to start off, I went ahead and remembered my design and where like all the different placements of the spiderwebs were. And by placements, I mean like the center part, where like the little middle part of each little spiderweb is. And from there, I just referenced the dress to kind of just figure out where everything goes. I wasn't beating myself over it, like if it wasn't like identical, like I knew it was like my interpretation, so I had some freedom that I like allowed myself. I will say that at first, it was like really intimidating to get started and like, just like thinking of all the different lines and everything I was gonna have to do just like really intimidated me at first. However, I will say that once I started like joining all the lines and kind of like working on different spiderwebs, everything just kind of clicked and started like helping each other out and like working together. So like if you're gonna do this, it's very intimidating, I will say, but like things click. Like once you get in the groove of things, like you're in the zone and you make it happen. I don't know if anyone noticed, some of my first spiderwebs look so messy, like that big center one. It's like all over the place, you can barely tell it's a spiderweb. But then like my later ones, like the last few I made, like I'm really proud of. Like the one at the top of the slit, that was one of my last ones that I like worked on, and I'm like so happy with how it turned out. So by this time I'm done drawing all the spiderwebs and it's time to start setting up. So at first I was really determined to do the whole project and all the beading with just one size of rhinestone, but then I kind of realized that I didn't have enough, so I kind of like realized that I would have to either space the whole design apart, which is what I'm doing here at first, or just end up using a smaller size to kind of fill in the gaps. So I will say that at first my process with like the whole rhinestone setting was all over the place. I wasn't really organized, but then I got into the groove of things and started kind of aligning the little gemstones or rhinestones, whatever, in every little corner of where there's an intersecting line. And then I ended up like kind of refining my process a little more and just doing the straight lines that shoot out from the center, and then moving on to this like the ones that intersect in between those two later on. So at this point, I'm already totally getting the hang of everything. I'm setting all the stones in place, then going through with a little rhinestone setter. Everything's going perfectly fine. And then I'm like starting to feel that it's going kind of slow for me. So I'm like, okay, I need to dice it up or, shake it up and kind of like switch it up or something. So I pass those tweezers to the other hand and then start setting a stone, then hitting it with the little heat gun or the little rhinestone setter. And then I'm moving at like a lightning speed. So like it totally sped everything up. So it was really like kind of exciting to like realize that I was able to do that. I didn't do it for everything. Like for this bigger one, I switched back and started setting them in place before, but like I don't know, it was kind of cool to like realize that I was able to do that. I'm so sorry you had to like hear that. I don't know what's going on through my head. Honestly, these recordings get so long that I forget what I'm saying most of the time until I kind of cut everything down, but I hope you guys had a laugh like I did. I believe that at this point I'm already done with the bigger rhinestones, so I start switching over to the smaller ones. And by smaller ones, I really mean small. These are super tiny and they're a lot more difficult to like get. Honestly, they fall off a lot easily. However, if I place like two next to each other, I could easily like use the flat little iron setting tool to kind of get both at the same time. What I'm basically doing with these little smaller rhinestones is just going through and really filling in the spider webs and just kind of really giving them that form they need. So it's currently at that point, it was like 3 a.m. and I had filmed so much footage that I had completely lost track and forgot about my storage. So the camera gave out and I lost about 3 hours of footage. I basically wasn't filming for about an hour and a half and I forgot to check, but then when I did, it took me like another hour and a half to kind of like transfer all of my stuff, my videos onto my hard drive to kind of like clear up the space. So yeah, so what you're about to see right now is that little time skip of 3 hours, and you're gonna see like a big change between like the before and after of like the 3 hour process. And bam, there it is. As you can see, it's already super filled out. It looks more defined, like the whole little spider webs. They're more vibrant and they kind of like they're more bold. So I really like how it looks at this point. However, it is taking me a long time to really get in there and do all of them. It's tedious work, but it's insanely satisfying and relaxing at the same time. So I honestly cannot complain. Alrighty, so it is 8:10. I barely slept at all last night, and because I had to add every single little jewel in here by hand. And it was a lot more time consuming than I expected. I do like the weight it has now. And now that it's 8, I have like about, 15 minutes to add the straps on here and sew up the back and the hem. So before I continue adding any more crystals, I'm going to take a moment to go ahead and do that. Make sure that's done. So let me tell you, at this point I was sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna complete it in the 24 hours that I challenged myself to do. And I was beating myself up for taking that long nap after I had the hot chocolate. I regretted it so much. It was not worth it. I should have drank coffee instead. So what you see me doing here is just sewing up the little neckline, since it was a little too low for my liking and for the dress's liking apparently, since it wasn't hugging the body how I wanted it to. So I just did a few little ladder stitches in there, or blind stitches, either name works, to kind of like sew it up and make it fit a little better. So upon doing that, all I had to do was kind of even out the hem and sew it up and kind of just flip everything right sides out. I left one little opening in the hem of the dress to kind of be able to flip everything out, if you're wondering how I did that. And you probably guess what's next. Yes, a good press. And yes, I know, it's already 9. So the 24 hours were already up at this point. However, I'm not going to leave a dress undone and just halfway done, so I'm obviously going to finish it. For the straps, I'll be using an embroidery thread that's a lot thicker than regular sewing thread, and it also has like these little metallic fibers kind of twisted into it, so it makes it thicker and also makes it like be a little shiny. To sew this on, I would actually knot the end of like the back strap and then mark the measurement that I want for the strap, and then sew into the front strap all the way up to that marking that I made, and then do another little knot by like stitching it through, and then it'll hold its place and it'll be perfect. And to mark the end of the project, I'm going to go ahead and seal off the back. The way I'm going to seal this is by using a ladder stitch by only stitching the lining. And the reason why I only did the lining is because I only want the lining to be held together, and I don't want any of that black material to peek through the back and kind of touch the doll at any point. So that's why I'm only stitching the lining, so the lining's going to be stuck together and nothing's going to go through. Given that the 24 hours had ended and I didn't complete my challenge and kind of didn't really meet that mark because of my little nap, I ended up deciding to just take a rest to kind of recollect myself throughout the day. And then I came back to the dress and continued working on it at this time, I believe like around 2 a.m. It was really hard to go back to sleep after staying up all night and sleeping all day, so yeah, that's why I'm up late once again working on this dress. At this point, I'm just trying it on and making sure everything's fitting well, and I'm preparing to add a hook and eye just to kind of bring everything in at the back. I ended up choosing to add the hook and eye right under where the bust ends at the back, that little bust line at the back, and you know, it really cinches the under bust and really highlights like the curves of the body, so that felt like that was the best spot. After securing both the hook and the eye on the back of the dress, this is how it looks. It is time to put this baby on, and we need to rush since Chi has a red carpet to attend. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate your support. Please do not forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment below what your favorite part of today's video was. If you're still in the mood to sew, hang out, or even get some free patterns, go ahead and check out these playlists that I have up on the screen right now. Hope you have an amazing day. See you next time.